Hello everyone and welcome to the first installment of a new series? Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what to call it yet, though I'm leaning towards D&D Workshop. That's probably what I'm gonna go with. I was kind of debating whether I should call it DM's Workshop or not, but DM's Workshop kind of implies that only DMs should watch the show, and that's not what I'm aiming for. I'm kind of aiming for everybody to take a bit away from this. And I'm going to start off with most people, and that is players for this episode, but the show's going to delve into a lot of different things. It's going to delve into some homebrew stuff, some rules, interpretations, it's going to show off character builds, putting ideas, like a concept, into a character, how someone could transfer an idea into an actual character. Bunch of things like that. This is going to update semi-regularly, depending on how D&D sessions go from now on. But I'm gonna sort of like kind of try a little bit of everything with this series, gauge what people are interested in, and then we'll sort of focus and narrow down on what we want to look at and some subjects we want to tackle. Maybe even now and then I'll take suggestions from people. But for today, first episode, we are looking at taking a concept, an idea, and turning it into a character for 5th edition. Now most often I'm going to be tackling 5th edition. You probably won't see 4th edition ever again on this channel. This is an idea that I wanted to do for a long time, and had I started it on my last channel, I would have had 4th edition stuff. But 5th edition is out. It is my favorite format. I love 5th edition so much. And that's primarily what I'm going to be doing. Today we are looking at Osric Frostmane. Not a very great accent. I'm working on it. He is a mountain dwarf, a fighter monk. That might be the weird thing here. He is a fighter monk. Lawful neutral. Now, you might be wondering why that combination, where does that idea leading? Well, today we have made a Dragoon from Final Fantasy. I decided to take inspiration from the Dragoons in Final Fantasy XIV because that's the Dragoon that I'm most familiar with out of the series. I don't believe in 10 there was a Dragoon. I guess technically Fang is a Dragoon in 13. Though I don't see her jump a whole lot. So, and I haven't played the game that Kane is in. And off the top of my head, I don't remember it. I will look it up, you don't have to tell me in the comments. But today we have made a Dragoon based on the Final Fantasy XIV Dragoons, the Heaven's Ward, like the Legion of Dragoons that fight dragons in Heaven's Ward. We have made a fighter who dips a little bit into monk. I believe that's actually very similar to how Final Fantasy XIV handled it. It's you take like 30 levels in Lancer and then 15 levels in Pugilist, and you can become a Dragoon. And you kind of use some of the little tiny key bonuses from Monk to fuel jumps. And it also gives you some extra bonuses with bonus actions. It makes you able to attack more. You could feasibly just do a pure fighter build, because jumping is not determined by dex in 5th edition. It is determined strictly by your strength modifier and your strength score. So pumping your strength is really important here. Now the way that I rolled my stats, I believe I got a 15, 14, 13, 10, 11, 10. That is what I rolled. So I put the 15 in strength, the 14 in dex, the 13 in con, and then you can put the 10, 11, 10 in whatever other stats you want. We start off as a monk, because if you don't start off as monk, you don't get, you have to have your wisdom at 13 to be able to multi-class into monk. So if we start as monk, we don't have to have our wisdom stat so high. We don't really need our wisdom stat to be that high anyway, because we're not going to be in monk for a long time. Now the only things that we get from monk, I actually wrote here for some reason, that's a thing here. We do get simple and martial weapons later, but the only things we do get are light and medium armor. We do not have heavy armor proficiency. We don't need it. Our perception is just going to be 10, I believe. So yeah, here's what we're looking at. Health. We'll start over here. So the stats I've already told you about. We get strength, and that is actually a mistake on my part. We get strength and dexterity as saving throws. Very good saving throws for a trained sort of jumpy fighter. Not really dexterous, but jumpy, I guess. We took acrobatics, athletics, history, and intimidation. The only reason we have intimidation and history is because of our background, which I'll get into in a bit. But acrobatics and athletics are the most important things for you to take. Acrobatics, so that you can land safely when you jump, because if you can't land safely, you're going to take damage. That's not going to be fun. Athletics, for being able to just do general feats of strength. You have a high strength score, so you may as well take advantage of it through a skill. Passive perception is 10. We know common and dwarvish from being a dwarf. We have proficiency with light and medium armor from multi-classing into fighter. And we have simple and martial weapons from multi-classing into fighter. We get Mason's tools from fighter at a certain point, and we get Dragon's chest from our background. Speaking of background, we're going to look over here. We just took the soldier background. The personality points are pretty straightforward. Very loyal to their city. They like simple solutions, basically jumping into a problem, essentially. Their company was at some point defeated by a dragon, and so their hatred of dragons is blind and unreasoning, and so they hunt dragons at the behest of their city, their leaders' whim. So very lawful, as I said, lawful neutral right here. They follow just authority. Now we're going to go down the middle here now. Being a dwarf, we have 25 feet of movement. We have +2 initiative from our +2 dex modifier, and we have 16 AC because we are wearing scale mail. For hit points, I just took the average. This is obviously a level 20 build, fighter 18, monk 2. And I just took the average of health right here. In fact, actually, I need to... Actually, dang, I screwed up there. We should have 181 because it's a +3, not +2. And then we have our weapons here. We use a glaive. You could easily easily use a halberd. Glaive or halberd work perfectly fine. It really doesn't matter, it's just up to you. As long as you're using a heavy, two-handed polearm. And that includes glaive, halberd, and quarterstaff. Now technically spear is a polearm if you're looking at just traditional definitions, but there are 3 specific weapons that apply to a feat that we pick up, so glaive, halberd, and quarterstaff, it is. And that's all you get to choose from. I like glaives because they're cool. They're just swords at the end of a stick. It's basically an extended spear. So I chose a glaive. You could choose a halberd, whatever. We do get unarmed from being partially a monk, so we are not without a weapon. We always have a weapon, which is nice. Even if that's not very Dragoon-like, being able to punch things is nice to be able to do that. And the items that we have. Only 3 items matter, really. Your weapon, which will probably be magical, though I've only put a regular weapon here. Scale mail, because typically Dragoons wear scale. The traditional, like the relic armor for Dragoon is scale. The artifact armor from 2.0 is scale. It's scale. So we're going to go with scale mail. It's also really good medium armor. So it's pretty decent, and I like it. There's a lot of different things you can do with scale mail. You can get dragon scale armor, which is super nice. It would kind of make sense for you to wear dragon scale armor too, because it helps you hunt dragons. And you can make it from the carcass of your dead enemy. And the other thing that you want to get is a ring of jumping. Huh, I wonder why. Ring of jumping is a cool little ring, magic item that you can get that allows you, if you're wearing it, to cast as a bonus action, I believe. You can cast jump on yourself at will without needing concentration, I believe. Okay. Clarified. Ring of jumping allows you to cast as a bonus action jump at will, but you can only target yourself. Normally jump allows you to target multiple people. It lasts for 1 minute, because a spell jump lasts for 1 minute, no concentration required. So as your bonus action, first thing you do in battle, cast jump. Suddenly, with the power of jump, your jump distance is tripled. Add that to the monk's ability, Step of the Wind, and you get some pretty crazy jump distance. This is pretty much what it means to be a Dragoon. And you can get a Ring of Jumping pretty early. Ring of Jumping is not really a super powerful item, and I believe that the Ring of Jump can exceed movement, but you should probably speak with your DM about whether or not you're allowed to exceed your movement with jumping. I feel like it's fine, because when you jump, you can only go in one direction. And you should be careful about where you jump, because you're not stopping until you hit the ground. So it's totally fine in my opinion. But you should talk with your DM. Sometimes you can only, DMs are only like, no, you can only jump as far as your max speed will allow you. In which case, if that is the case, do not pick Mountain Dwarf, because 25 feet of movement is not a lot. I'd probably go with some class that gets movement bonuses, or a race that gets movement. I think elves do. I think wood elves get movement bonuses, so they'd be pretty decent. Alternatively, you could go human, and as your bonus feat, you could either take Polearm Master right there, or you could take the mobile feat, because that'll increase your movement by 10 feet. So that would be a good idea. But again, talk with your DM about that. For fighter, we take great weapon fighting, because we're going to be using a great weapon. We're going to be using a glaive. The martial archetype that we choose, however, is Battle Master. Now, the martial archetype can differ. You can go Battle Master. I like Battle Master for the utility, mostly because in Final Fantasy XIV, Dragoons have some raid utility. They have a little bit of support utility in there with some of their abilities, like boosting critical hit ratio for the party if they're in a certain radius, allowing people to get healed more through healing magic from a monk ability that they gain. So I decided to add that element in there by giving them the combat superiority from Battle Master. It makes them it makes this build very reliable. With precision attack, you become a very reliable hitter, because you can do it before or after you roll the attack, which is super nice. Feinting attack is similar. You just pop feigning attack and suddenly you have advantage on the next attack roll you make. A lot of these do take use of bonus actions, so bonus action attacks aren't really a huge deal for us. We're more about, with this build anyway, we're more about hitting consistently. So we get 60-12 per rest that we can use to fuel these attacks. So I took lunging attack because suddenly our reach becomes 15 feet with a glaive. That's insane. That's very far. It also adds for some flavor, because what I like to think of is this Dragoon for the lunging attack is they're like vaulting forward, striking, like piercing this enemy's, you know, skin with their glaive, and then doing like a backflip backwards to avoid the enemy's inevitable retaliation. It's a cool little flavor moment that you can have with the other players and your DM, and it's like, it's just flavor. It didn't do anything. It's just to paint a picture in your mind. It doesn't have any sort of gameplay mechanics to it. So I like that. Now for Monk, we only took 2 levels, so we only get unarmored defense, which pretty much goes unused because we're wearing scale. Martial arts, we deal a d4 with our unarmed strikes. And we get ki, 2 points of ki. We can use them to fuel Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, or Step of the Wind. Step of the Wind is pretty much going to be the main focus of using ki. It's essentially like, oh hey, I need to cover a large distance right now. Step of the Wind. Suddenly your jump distance is doubled. Now depending on how, I think it adds up the same way. So let's say you can jump 15 feet. Ring of Jumping multiplies that by 3, which goes up to 45, and the Step of the Wind would multiply that by 2, so that goes up to 90. So they stack, according to how it's written. So that basically means that for that one turn you have a just sudden burst of jumping energy and you can just fly across the field. It's really good, and that's really the only reason we have it. It's our mega jump. And then unarmored movement also goes unused because we're not unarmored. Now for our ability score improvements that we take at certain levels, we get +2 from in strength and +2 in con from our race. We take Polearm Master right away. Polearm Master is awesome, and you're going to have to wait a tiny bit to get Polearm Master. These are not player levels, these are class level. So all of these from now on are, this is Fighter, 4th, and then pretty much everything else is Fighter. As you can see, we prioritize Polearm Master, but then after that, it's all about upping your, rounding out your stats. So you want to round out your stats as best you can. You get a lot of ability score increases from Fighter, and you can use that to your advantage. So we got +1 to strength, +1 to con. That got strength up to 18, con up to 16, and then +2 to strength brought this up to a 20 strength. And that was pretty much what I liked. I was happy with that. And then Great Weapon Master for added damage, Savage Attacker for even more added damage, and then Lucky because really there was nothing else that I could choose, and Lucky is just a really good feat. Makes us super consistent, and it's a good sort of ending feat to get. If you don't have it already. In fact, you can kind of change these around. Lucky, Savage Attacker, Great Weapon Master. It's really up to you what feats you want. Athlete could also be really good because that means you only have to move 5 feet before you can make a full jump instead of 10 feet. So, with that being said, I think that's everything. I feel like this would be very fun to play as. I haven't actually played it myself. This is an idea. And I actually had to go through 2 takes of this recording to get the idea fully fleshed out. As I ran into stuff from the last recording, I realized like, oh, this would work better. But there's an idea of coming into this. I will have, in the description when I do these kinds of builds, I will have level progression for the character, and I'll have like a recommended area of like, you should get the Ring of Jumping here if I have any notable magic items that you really want. Ring of Jumping is really the only one that matters. And then obviously in your campaign you will get magic items, magic armor, other magic abilities and stuff like that. But Ring of Jumping is really the only one that I would say get it for this build. It's probably not the most min-maxy thing in the world, but if that's what you're into, then just, I don't know, play something different that works for that. But I feel like this would be fun. I tried to play Dragoon in 4th edition, and it was pretty dang fun. So I feel like this would be super fun, especially if it's a dwarf. A little, like, stout, dense beard flying through the air, flipping through the air with a glaive. Oh my god, that would be amazing. So, with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know. Liking the video helps. Leaving a comment telling me that you liked it helps. Let me know if there's any ideas you want to see be made into characters, or anything you think would work well for the next episode. Whether that's you want to see like, hey, can you show us how to do this homebrew, or hey, can you give us ideas for like rulings on, I don't know, this spell fusing with this, I don't know, like something like that. Like, what do you think the next video should be about? Whether that's making a character or reviewing a homebrew or whatever. So, yes, I'm looking forward to it. This wasn't the most exciting visually, but it's all in your mind. And junk. So until next time, I will see you guys soon for the next episode of D&D Workshop. So, until then, later, players.